Well, as I've said a few times tonight, which you might not have heard over the din, my name is Barbara Pennington. I'm president of Wisconsin Now, and I get to be your... I get to be your MC tonight, so you'll be hearing my voice in between all the other speakers. First, I wanted to welcome you all and congratulate you for braving today's very strange weather. There are times when I like to think I'm a very powerful woman. It's important to be a powerful woman if you're a feminist, of course. But my birthday was last Sunday. For everyone who wants to know, I turned 40. Now you can apply. I'm here to talk about it. And I happen to love snow on my birthday. Everybody who hates winter hates me because I'm always wishing for snow. But I did say on my birthday, if I have a choice between snow or no snow, I will take 60-degree weather, which is what we got close to last Sunday. So that's why we have the snow tonight. Just to let you know about my power. Tonight we're celebrating both our 17th annual Feminist of the Year banquet, and you all know we're honoring State Representative Rebecca Young. Tonight you'll hear me address her so formally. It is also our 30th anniversary of the founding of Now. So in between the Feminist Year celebration, we'll also be interspersing bits of Now history, or herstory, as we like to say. And if you didn't get a chance before dinner to look at our displays over here, we have what I would call blackmail display for Becca, a little bit of herstory also, and then herstory of Now closer toward the podium. So that everyone has a chance to finish their moose and Senator Moore has a chance to finish her chicken. Also, it's fun trying to drive in a bus in the snow from Milwaukee last week. I'll start with the thank yous. There are a lot of people here that I would like to thank for making this night possible. First on my list, of course, is the most recent past president of Wisconsin Now, Margaret McMurray. So much easier when someone who's done it before is there to let you know about what details you missed and or volunteers to follow them up for you, so you don't have to remember which details you missed. In addition, why don't I name off the names and we can give everybody a round of applause at the end. Karen Godshaw, Kathy Chung, Lori Whitney, Jennifer McGuire, Cindy Van Greedy on video. These thank yous are all at the back of the book, in case you're wondering. Jane Kinney Flowers, Nancy Vedder-Schultz will be our solos tonight. Budget signs for our plaque, which you'll see later. And Judith Dieter Moriarty, our newsletter editor, and the woman who put together the lovely ad book. So if you give them all a round of applause. There are also two people who helped out at the registration table and at our products table. Oh, don't forget our products table over there. We have t-shirts in celebration of tonight's anniversary. It says Forward Wisconsin Women. 30 years of leadership, 1966 to 1996. And those people that helped there were Linda Gow, Maria Daniels, thank you. Who else was there? Beth Brace and Megan, I'm forgetting you. But she's not in the room right now. So.
Amy DeBauer.
And Amy DeBauer. Oh, she's going to get introduced later. So. Oh, but you still get thanks for the work you did. In addition, Margaret gave me a list of additional sponsors and benefactors who made donations to Wisconsin Now to honor Rebecca Young. So we have Giovanna Maselli Jeffries, Jane and Leslie Doty, Ernst and Janie Conrad, Robert Butler, Ann Kellogg, Janice Baldwin, Mary Ellen Carr, Jessica Doyle, Mary A. Lind, if I pronounced that correctly, Cynthia Cooper, Broderick, Crystal Anders, Jean Boyer, Pat Hoses, and Donna Breslin. So thank you to all those people who donated additional funds to make this banquet a success. And too bad you're not here. And of course, because this is an now event, and I don't believe as women we honor our leaders nearly often enough. Okay? I'm one, I know. So I could use some applause again. I'd like to acknowledge a lot of our local leadership, those men and women who work at our chapter level and put in untold hours of work for Wisconsin Now. For Madison Now, we have both Percy Mather and Keith Wessel here tonight. Green Bay, Kelly Winters. Our Fox Valley person couldn't make it tonight. And we have a whole table of Milwaukee people. Is Michelle there? I never saw her come in. Okay. And now, I insist on my state officers standing up. You have to do this. And please hold your applause until they're all up. My Vice President Executive is Sheila Nonkin from Milwaukee. Secretary, Janice McGuire from Neenah. Treasurer is Tess Mulrooney from Madison. And those are all the elected officers that are here tonight. And then, of course, we would not be able to get our work done without the activists that work at the task force level. And tonight we have several people who are state task force chairs. Kathy Zerlo, who does reproductive rights. She can stand. Amy DeBauer, who is the head of our Young Feminist Task Force. So we get to bring in the next wave of feminists and get them trained and get them active. Percy Mather, who also does the lesbian, bisexual, gay, civil rights task force. I believe that's the current name. And is there anyone else who does task force feminists? Okay, thank you very much. We do have additional task forces that we have, and the people who are not able to make it tonight are education equity, economic justice, and what else? Oh, Denise is here. Denise Matika has done economic justice for quite a long time. There you are. Now here's the fun part. We usually always like to acknowledge the elected officials who come to our fundraisers, especially those who help our cause and vote well on the issues. And what's nice is normally if a politician doesn't vote the way we like on our issues, they don't come to our banquet. We'll see how well coordinated our registration was and our guest list. So there's no particular order. It's probably more like how you came in the door. So tonight, if you'd like to stand when I say your name and hold applause to the end, I can introduce everybody, from alderpersons to state senators, it looks like. We have Representative David Travis, Senator Fred Rizzer, Peter Williams from the school board, Jean McCubbin, an alderperson, Tammy Baldwin, state representative, Mike Revere, another alder, Sue Bauman, alder, Deborah Carter Lawson, school board, alder? School board, thank you. I couldn't read my own handwriting. Steve Holtzman, alder, Mariah Kruger, judge, Maria, thank you. I like feminist crowds. They're independent and they do correct you. Teresa Brousseau, county supervisor. Therese? Okay. Judy Olson, I got this one down. She's my alder person. of course, Senator Gwen Moore will be speaking later. Thank you for taking time out to come and honor Becky Young. Also, it's very difficult to see women's rights forwarded if women don't run for office and put themselves out there to be in a position of leadership. So tonight, I'd just like to do a quick acknowledgement, and you may stand if you'd like, of women who are running for public office in the area. Karen West for County Board, Judith Pedersen for County Board, and Erica Eisinger, Court of Appeals. And Karen Cornwell for County Board. Apparently there's someone else too. And you are?
Yvonne Crawford-Gray for County Board.
And you're Yvonne Crawford-Gray, and you're running for County Board. Okay, thank you. Oh, I got through that one. Well, I thought I'd take a little time to talk about the history of now, and apparently we need to make a lot of noise for the baby to be happy. So, feel free to keep the background noise going up and he'll be happy. And that is Becky's grandson, of course. I like when we applaud Becky for her daughter's work. But hey, you can get it where you can, right? Well, anyone here not heard the phrase, the personal is the political? Maybe him. Well, what's wonderful is tonight we get to look at the history of now and see it reflected in the changes in Becky's life. 30 years ago, a bunch of women got together, about 3 years after the Civil Rights Act was passed, and the EEOCs were formed to implement the Civil Rights Act. And at the third annual annual conference on the status of women, many women, several from Wisconsin, were very frustrated with the fact that the EEOC still thought the girls were a little crazy for thinking that perhaps women were serious when we said we don't want to be discriminated on the job. So you've heard the little story of the napkin at a table one night where they formed the National Organization for Women to bring women into full participation with men in the society now. And everyone tossed in $5 and away they went, and here we are today. Remember, 30 years ago, sexual harassment was considered part of life. That's what happened when you walked out of your home and wanted to get a job. Now it is recognized as not only against the law, but women aren't lying when they talk about it. And it can be a powerful political force for organizing. Look at Anita Hill when she testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee concerning Clarence Thomas. 30 years ago, a battered woman had no place to go. Now we are working at getting a shelter in every county in the state. And the police now recognize it as a crime instead of what did she do to deserve this and why did she set him off. It is slowly infiltrating into our consciousness that this is male violence, not female instigation. The list of changes go on. We can talk about the increases in employment, the doubling of women in non-traditional fields. Unfortunately, we have a long way to go still. What I'd like to do now is to honor our founding mothers that have made it here tonight. Let me just first read off the first list. What am I trying to say? I have a list that I have to read because I don't have them quite memorized. But just the number of women from Wisconsin who were active in the very founding of NOW in the first couple of years. Kay Clarenbach, Jean Boyer, Catherine Conroy, Sister Austin Doherty, Sister Joel Reed, Mary Eastwood, Edith Finlayson, I think, how do you say that? I got it, good. Nancy Mack, Mabel McClanahan, all were early Wisconsin activists. Now, we also include in this list someone who we'll honor tonight, Dorothy Austin. She was a reporter for the Milwaukee Sentinel, and we include her because we know how important it is to have a movement reported. If no one's writing about us, no one's talking about us, how does anyone else know we're doing anything? So she was very important in our founding. Two of our founding mothers made it here tonight. Thank you very much. Let me introduce them now. That is Mary Eastwood, who wrote, or co-wrote, while she was working at the Department of Justice, a groundbreaking article called Jane Crow and the Law, Sex Discrimination and Type. And of course, Dorothy Austin. Jean Boyer, one of our founding mothers and still very active in Wisconsin women's movement, sends her regards and regrets from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. You'll find her letter talking about one of their first incidences in facing the man, as she described it, in your program book, so I won't take the time to read it. It is wonderful, it's entertaining, and it's funny how 30 years later, when you're still looking at those men in power, sometimes your knees do turn to jelly. But that doesn't stop us. When I was reading through the history of NOW, since I consider myself someone who's very new to NOW, I've only been around for 6 years, I noticed we have lost many of our founding mothers in the last few years. Kay Clarenbach being one, Catherine Conroy another. And what I love about feminist activists, as, for example, Kay, she doesn't quit. Even by choosing the day she died, she gave us a command. And 3 years ago, next week, she died on March 4th. So let us continue to do the work. Some quick introductions, and then we'll get on to the rest of the program. I'd like to introduce former feminists of the years that have made it. Unfortunately, Liz Carlin, I think, got caught in the snow and did not make it, but Gwen Moore is here. So we get to she was last year, actually. And Nicole Taylor, who I think was the year before. And Denise Matika, who was here, but I think she's at the bar. It must be the bar outside in the hall. She's not there. And I do have a couple of letters from a couple of other, there she is. Everybody clap. I'll keep her in the room and she'll never leave again. We do have two short messages from a couple of former feminists of the year. Mary Lou Muntz is one. And I'll read that. And guess what? I told you all I just turned 40. I went from 20/20 vision a week ago, and now I'm starting this. I wish with all my heart that I could be with you tonight, Becky, as you receive the honor of being NOW's Feminist of the Year. Of course, you are my feminist for every year, and now is finally catching up. It's hard for me to believe that you have now served in the Assembly for as long as I did. My only regret for you has been that you have had to serve under much more difficult circumstances. I had the luxury of serving in a time when passing good bills was in fashion. Well, you have to devote yourself largely to preventing rather bad than doing good. Preventing bad rather than doing good. But how you, excuse me, you're going to like this next line, but how you have kept your fist in the dike. I'm known for doing these kind of faux pas. There has been no one as smart or tenacious, as wily, and as hardworking. I feel enormously grateful that I haven't ever had to nag you the way you nagged me. Instead, I have been able to sleep at night, knowing that before dawn, you would be down in the Capitol. Your devoted admirer thanks you from the bottom of her heart and knows that all the feminists and children in Wisconsin join her. Okay, somewhere here I can focus in. And this message is from a former Feminist of the Year, actually she had the honor twice, and former National Now President, Judy Goldsmith. To my good friends in Now, I deeply regret not being able to share this important and happy night with you. I especially regret not being able to sing with you, since singing has always been so important to our identity as a movement. It was our ideology, our entertainment, and our therapy. There was even once an attempt to write song leading into the state president's job description. That's okay. I wouldn't break glasses if I had to sing tonight. I want to extend to you tonight my congratulations and my thanks. My congratulations for an outstanding history of accomplishments that have made a real difference in women's lives. And thanks for providing me and so many other women with the support, the training, the occasional kick upstairs to move beyond what we thought we were capable of. Your fine and dedicated efforts over these years have shown us and continue to show us the way to a world in which we are all equally valued for what we can uniquely contribute to the human community. At this time, I would like to start what I call the Becky part of the program. And I get to sit down, drink a little water, get a load off my feet. I am in heels after all. And I'd like to introduce our vocalist for the evening, Nancy Bitter-Schultz from Madison. She has recently completed a tape called Chant to the Coming of Heaven. Here she goes.
When Jennifer asked me to come here and sing tonight, I was very pleased because not only have I done several lip drops for Becky Young, but she's also a neighbor. She lives around the corner from me. And as I was telling her as I came in tonight, the only drawback that I can see of her being in the assembly representing me is that I don't get to see her beautiful garden without weeds any longer. So tonight, when I came in, I noticed that beyond Becky and myself, there are a couple of other people here who also have a touch or more of gray in their hair. So I dedicate this song to Becky and to all of us who are coming into our years. This is a song by Betsy Rose, and it's a sing-along. So you get to sing with me, just like Judy Goldsmith suggested we do. So, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This has these words that all mean the same thing, so it's very difficult to memorize. But I'll put it right here. What? You want to hold it? Okay, you hold it. So, oh, I can slip this out. Oh, that's much better. Because I couldn't get close enough to it and sing at the same time. So it goes like this. I'm a gray-haired woman and I'm coming into my years. And then you sing, coming into my years. Let's try that. I'm a gray-haired woman and I'm coming into my years. Coming into my years. I get off my knees. I'm an aging woman and I'm coming into my years. All right. And I'm a streetwise woman and I'm coming into my prime. Coming into my prime. I'm a fight back woman and I'm coming into my prime. No more shrinking with fear when they whistle and cheer. I got a fist that's hard and a mind that's clear. I'm a night walk woman and I'm coming into my prime. And I'm a loud mouth woman and I'm coming into my voice. Into my voice. Right. And I'm a talk back woman and I'm coming into my voice. Into my voice. 'Cause there's an ocean of words got caught in my throat. Gonna let loose the waters and learn how to float. I'm a sing out woman and I'm coming into my voice. And I'm a fight back woman and I'm coming into my strength. I'm a make change woman and I'm coming into my strength. I won't save the world, I won't drain the throne, but I will fight any battle that'll move us along. I'm a far-sighted woman and I'm coming into my strength. And I'm a loving woman and I'm coming into my own. I'm a heartbeat woman and I'm coming into my own. I will go for the passion, I'll go for the strength, I'll go for the moment and I'll go for the length. I'm a give-take woman and I'm coming into my own, coming into my own. Yes, I'm a gray-haired woman and I'm coming into my own. And like the rest of you, I am a make-change woman and I'm coming into my own. Thank you very much.
Well, next, we have Ann Arneson. And her song tonight will be... You know, you should never spell check your notes and not pay close attention to what's happening, because I wanted to write former colleague on the Madison School Board, and I noticed my notes say former college. Okay. So she's a former colleague from Becky's school board days and a longtime friend, Ann Arneson.
Thank you. Suddenly I'm overcome with this just awful responsibility of having to say something now. But I have to sing it right. Becky knows I can't sing one note on key. I was reading this list of Wisconsin Now Feminists of the Years. And I have to say, Becky, you are in such company. To coin a phrase of a younger generation, who would say one could kill for. That's a very impressive list. I'm really happy to be here tonight for this honor for Becky. I think she's a great choice for this award. I've known Becky for years. She will be the first to tell you I'm older. We were in college together years ago, although I didn't know her very well there, but I'll get to that in a minute. I've known her through league activities, legal and voter activities in Madison. We we were on the Board of Education together, and we work a lot together now that she's in the legislature. We have a new status that we're sharing lately, that of grandmother. And we are, but actually we're sort of Janie come latelys to this grandmother game. But we've learned to do it. We dutifully carry our pictures. And we're trying very hard. We pretend to remember what a 2-month-old baby does. And we're just shutting up about how to bring up baby. Almost. Well, I'm going to tell you 4 things about Becky you may not know. She's manipulative. She's in the wrong profession. She has a past that is suspect. There are some ghosts. And she's really mellowed. There's that. In all those catalogs, they have that T-shirt that you buy people for a birthday that says something like, I couldn't remember exactly, it was like, something like vintage wine improves with age. No, we're getting there. Anyway, what does manipulative mean? I can tell you. It means a call on Sunday morning at 7 o'clock or even 7:30 that starts, it doesn't start with hello. It starts with, I've been thinking. And then I know I'm in trouble, and I think other people have had the same experience. I know that I will end up promising to do all kinds of things that I have no time to do, never even thought of doing, and probably don't want to do. But I say yes. When we served on the school board together, we had a board that was as divided as the present one. But you know, I'm going to say something nice. Becky had this really wonderful ability to quietly befriend the other side. Thank you, Dad. Well, you know, she would do it in such a way that we would all go out together afterwards to the bar across the street, and we'd have a great time. And these people were really negative people. I mean, it was quite an accomplishment. People always said she couldn't win, and before, when she first ran for the school board, she was campaign committee. They decided they're going to do a makeover. They made her give up her headband, get new glasses. But then they found out that they didn't need to do anything because Becky was such a great campaigner that she just got out there and talked about the issues and could win handily. Well, getting on to what's the wrong profession. Becky does a great job as a legislator. I have no quarrel with that. But I have to tell you, I'm convinced that after 15 years of doing aerobics with her 3 mornings a week in this class, she should have been a dancer. Dancers, I know, like Becky, are deeply committed to their goal. And you will probably be surprised to know that she can actually do the steps to the salty dog rag, old Leanna, and an Irish jig. Now I have to say, I'm still faking this after all these years. There is on tape on to her past and what is suspect and what are the ghosts. There are two things looking way back to the University of Michigan where we were. Now remember, this is the early 50s. So first, as some of you may know, she was a sorority girl. Now, I didn't say woman. Because the word sorority and woman, it just doesn't roll out together. And she was also on the staff of the Michigan Daily. That was the student newspaper, but it was a widely acclaimed student newspaper. And back then it opposed one of Wisconsin's favorite sons, and I'm not speaking of La Follette. In today's climate, a position like that is really far out. But going on to mellowing, her acerbic tongue has mellowed, but what hasn't mellowed is her dogged pursuit of social justice. And that's a word we hardly hear these days. She has a serious work ethic in the legislature, even when everything is clearly stacked against her. She just keeps trying and calling on Sunday morning as if she could still make a difference. But I have to say, it's not too surprising that given the odds, she has made some difference. Bills have been modified, bad things have been held up, and her work has paid off. And it's really hard because she's on this Assembly Committee on Children and Families. And I have to say, the majority party did not put its stars on that committee. Sort of give you some sense of priorities about family values. But she asks all these difficult questions, and she always has the facts, and that's, you begin to resent that. But she does have this uncanny ability to work with the other side, as I said before, and she does respect people, and she listens when it's too easy to dismiss the opposition. I didn't talk to Tommy Thompson, but I did talk to someone else. And I want to read a quote to you from the Republican chair in the Assembly of the Welfare Reform Committee. Representative John Gard, who's from way up north, from Marinette, talks about Becky as his friend, and she is his friend. He says, and I will quote, "Becky is one of the most kind and compelling people I know. She is so compelling that she almost makes me think she is right on occasion." I always know where Becky is coming from. She is a straight shooter and believes in what she says. I respect her as much as anyone in the legislature. I just wish she would agree with me at least once in a while. Frankly, I think that's a great tribute to Becky. I'm very happy to be a friend, and I'm just delighted with this honor. Thank you.
Next on the list, and you don't have to sing it if you don't want to, is Shirley Lake. Shirley helped run Becky's first campaign for state assembly, and she won. And Shirley has been working for her ever since as a legislative assistant. That's right.
Caught up with her yet. First, I want to say what a wonderful group of people this is. Secondly, I want to recommend bifocals to Barbara Pennington. occasion of her designation as Wisconsin Now as the Feminist of the Year. The award is well deserved. As I was preparing my comments, two things clearly came to my mind about Becky. Her unwavering dedication as an advocate for women, children, and families. If I stand back, can you see me? Yeah. In general, on the one hand, but also her unwavering dedication to her own family. She is the proud mother of 4 daughters, Eve, Louise, Estelle, Emily, and now the proud grandmother of young Israel, Aiden, Dedina. Despite putting in unusually long hours as a legislator, she has always taken time out for family members. When family visits are expected, the office calendar is cleared. Whenever family members need her, she is there for them. Becky and I have lived 5 blocks from each other in the Dudgeon Monroe neighborhood for over 30 years now. I first became aware of her in the late 1960s when, as vice president of the Dudgeon Elementary School PTO, she was trying to keep the school from being closed. Although that effort failed, she and Betty Smith succeeded in getting the school board to rent space to a daycare center, and this was over the strenuous objection of the superintendent who wanted to get rid of the building. She skillfully got neighbors involved in getting Dudgeon fully rented, an effort which also resulted in the formation of our successful neighborhood association. The Dudgeon Center for Community Programs continues to thrive. As many of you know, Becky has been involved in many other grassroots efforts over the years, as well as serving as a county board supervisor and school board member, and now she is finishing her 6th term as state representative. After raising her family with her husband Crawford, at age 49, she completed her law degree, and this was while she was also on the school board, which always impressed me, and practiced 1 year before she successfully won a race against 7 other Democratic candidates for the 76th Assembly District seat in the exciting and unpredictable 1984 primary. Contrary to the assertion of the Wisconsin State Journal several years ago, Becky is still energized, fully, and going strong. Becky's ethics are impeccable. She always strives to promote good public policy, and she votes according to her convictions, even if this leaves her in a lonely position. Always proactive, she's a pro at problem solving with a far-sighted vision and clear sense of how to deal with a situation. I can hear her saying, "Now what we ought to do is," followed by a description of logical, concrete steps to be taken. Becky is one of the most intelligent persons I've ever known and is blessed with an extraordinary memory. However, if you want directions or a ride to someplace, you might want to ask someone else. Deciphering her poor handwriting for which I blame her doctor grandfather, has been the cause of many a lengthy staff conference. And if you think she might do well to dress up in something other than pants for special occasions, forget it. But she does have on very nice list tonight. Becky usually starts her day early with exercise classes 3 days a week and work at the office on the other 2. In addition, she often puts in many hours on weekends. She has kept her 2 paid staff, her devoted full-time volunteer, Ruth Loomis. I think you should stand up, Ruth. And all her interns in good running form. Indicative of the degree of dedication she inspires in supporters, and probably setting a record for longevity. There was no turnover in the original office personnel from the time Becky first took office in January 1984 until February last year, when the election results forced downsizing. Working for Becky has been challenging, rewarding, and a privilege. And Becky, to salute you in a way you often have saluted others, you're a great American.
This is when I get to introduce the daughters, who will come up and they each have a little bit to say. And while they're coming up here, I too wanted to thank Ruth for the work that she's done for Becky Young as a volunteer-run organization. Believe me, we understand how important dedicated volunteers are.
I'm Eva, this is Louise, and Estelle, and Emily, and as you may have figured out by now, we are the daughters. Mom has taught me many useful political lessons, and I just thought I would like to share a few of them with you. Number one, as both Anne and Shirley have pointed out, it is very important to have a clear focus and to avoid getting sidetracked. And Mom is extremely good at that, and I can see her making those phone calls without prefacing with the hello, how are you? And sometimes I've found myself doing the same thing when I've been politically active with people, and have always wondered why people did not respond especially positively about that. The other thing that she's taught me, and I think is very evident in the current presidential campaign, is that you usually don't need to actively, negatively campaign against your political opponents because they will usually do it to themselves. And finally, it's very important to analyze the situation that you're working on. And Mom is very good at doing that, even complex situations. Like when she was working on the Jackson Clinic issue and trying to stop the parking lot. I've always thought that that Joni Mitchell song about they paved paradise and put up a parking lot referred to. Anyway, thanks, Mom, for being an inspiration. And it's really nice to hear these wonderful stories. And thanks to Mal for recognizing my mother. I also want to talk a little bit about the theme of my mother as inspiration. And the memory that I want to share with you tonight concerns watching her really grow as a politician, and how the opportunity I had to watch this really taught me that there is such a thing as a learning curve. Very useful thing to know. After her election to the county board, which Shirley talked about, the first really big and to my preteen mind important job that she had was when Governor Lucy appointed her to the Highway Commission. And there she was a kind of a crusader for mass transit justice, and she used this position to impose her vision of a mass transit utopia on Wisconsin. And in the meantime, kind of bulldozed her way through scores of these hidebound sexist engineers and busily torpedoed their plans to concrete over Wisconsin. And they, in turn, tried to get back at her by embarrassing her with dirty jokes at Highway Commission functions. And they nicknamed her, behind her back, the Battle Axe. When I heard about all this as an 11-year-old, well, I thought it was kind of neat that she was, trying to stop all these highways being built. But what really brought these misty tears of inspiration to my eyes was this great nom de guerre, the Battle Axe. So then, she left the Highway Commission and she was elected to the legislature. And in this institution, I saw her adopt an entirely new strategy. And rather than trying to reinvent government, she reinvented herself. And from a kind of single-minded, uncompromising, what many would add bullheaded, crusader, my mother transformed herself into a team player. And instead of thinking of ways that she could kind of slash and burn the Republican agenda on, say, education, she thought of ways that she could mobilize the Republicans to work on her agenda. This is not always a successful strategy. So, and I remember a particularly weird time at which she thought she was going to get the Christian right to help her with state-funded prenatal care. We don't need to go anymore. We're not how that ended up. But many of her other initiatives in this line were really very successful. So, just in closing, I want to say that I still really like the ring of my mother, the Battle Axe. But it's my mother, the compromiser and the coalition builder, who really continues to be the inspiration for me. So, thank you.
I'm going to talk a little bit about how my mother was a mother. And one of the big lessons my mother taught us was how to be independent. The way that she could be both a responsible mother and a professional woman was to make us responsible for ourselves. However, these lessons didn't always occur without problems. She permanently declared early in our lives, that she would not be our chauffeur, and taught us to read a bus schedule as part of our ABCs. What you may not know is that she didn't know how to read a bus schedule herself. Of course, it goes without saying that we learned our leeching rides off others from none other than the master herself. But one of the first times I was alone on the bus, I took the Johnson Street bus downtown, and then dutifully got back on the Johnson Street bus to come back home. So my bus driver, being in Madison, called my parents from East Town and told them that I would be back eventually, but it would take a couple more hours. But we were also responsible for making dinner at home at quite early ages, and eat more boiled eggs and hamburger helper than we'd like to admit. My sister refers to those days as the dark ages of the young culinary experience. But we did learn how to cook for ourselves. But housework was the one battle for which she could never really claim a declaration of independence. Getting 4 girls to divert their attention from TV and books to do housework was really quite difficult. My mother never did figure out that her buckets always leaked because we threw them down the basement stairs instead of taking them down. I suspect it would have required less energy to do it herself. But she persisted and kept her eyes on the prize and continued to delegate responsibility to us. So the rocky road to independence has been cluttered with the carcasses of failed culinary experiments and quite a few death buddies, but we reached independence nonetheless. Thank you.
And I was so proud to hear about her award from the National Organization of Women, and I'm really honored to be here tonight to pay tribute to her. Oh, chairs are too. I always remember my mother juggling two roles, one as a wife and a mother of 4 daughters, and the other as a woman dedicated to public service. And it never really dawned on me how difficult that must have been for her until I just recently had one son. It was then that I realized how much work it takes to be a good mother. And my mother is the best. And I've asked myself, how did she do it? I now realize that she did that by integrating motherhood as much as possible into her work, both in terms of the issues that she became concerned with, mothers and children, for instance, and in the involvement of our family as much as possible in her work. I remember, for instance, as a child sitting in the PTO meetings under the table looking at a bunch of knees, watching my mother actually attack the sewing bag, which actually she hasn't looked at since. But it's a great excuse to get new clothes. So. Anyway, I also remember being dispatched numerous times, sub-zero temperatures, to drop literature. We're not talking a few blocks. It's usually more like a square mile or two. That's how we got our exercise as kids. At the time, as you might imagine, as a 5-year-old, I didn't really appreciate the value of dropping leaflets. But I now appreciate that. I hope to instill the same in my son. And I do realize that she has passed on some very important values to me, both social and environmental, and the importance of being an activist at all times in your life. And I'd like to say thank you, I love you, and I'm so proud of you.
What a family. Thank you so much. And next, we have Dad. Do I say anything else?
Let me just add to the introduction of our daughters. The oldest, Eva, is now working on a chemistry degree at the University of Minnesota. Louise is teaching Japanese history at New York University. Estelle is working in a sociology PhD at Johns Hopkins, and Emily has just started as a geography professor at the University of Arizona. So they're scattered. When I was first contacted and asked if I wished to speak at this occasion, I was initially uncertain as to whether it was appropriate for a spouse to take the podium, but there were 2 things which led me to believe that I really should. Firstly, I recognized Becky's virtues longer ago than anybody else in this room. And secondly, I spend more hours each day with Becky than anybody else in the room, although admittedly most of us are when we're both asleep. I can't tell you how painful it is, having been conditioned by 30 years of training to speak for 50 minutes at a crack, to be confined to 5, but I recognize the discipline imposed by the organizers of this event and trying to contain myself, even though I'm speaking of a particularly complex, difficult, and important topic. Firstly, she is a very decisive person. Secondly, she's a very resourceful person. Thirdly, she is an inscrutable person in certain ways. And fourthly, she is a person with a clear sense of direction. Now, as evidence of her decisiveness, I'd like to take you back 39 years into the past, about this time of year, when on the banks of the River Seine in Paris, just below the Place de la Concorde, I was putting forward a script I had carefully prepared, suggesting that we might form a permanent partnership. And Becky listened patiently to the first couple of sentences, and then she said yes. The rest of my speech just had to be put back in my pocket. And although I'm sure the thought has frequently crossed her mind in the 39 years since, why did I marry a jerk like that? Yet she stuck with her decision, as she always does. And here we are 39 years later. Now, secondly, her resourcefulness. As an example of that, in a year when I was serving as dean in far distant Lubumbashi in southeastern Zaire, and she came to visit. On her way back, on a New Year's Eve, just over 20 years ago, she boarded a plane, Air Zaire, ostensibly for Brussels. However, when the plane got to Kinshasa, the then and still president of the country, Mobutu Sese Seko, decided he didn't want his planes flying on New Year's Day. So the plane was grounded in Kinshasa at 2 o'clock in the morning of New Year's Day. And Becky was without a ticket to Brussels because they removed the entire ticket stub, without money, without a knowledge of Kinshasa, and loaded by the airport director onto a truck into town. Truck driver misunderstood her profession. And after extricating herself from that situation, she wound up at 4 o'clock in the morning in a hotel in Kinshasa. Now, I won't take the time to go through all the details, but I just want to leave you with the punchline that only a day later, Becky was back on a plane with a ticket that she didn't have to buy, headed back to family and hearth in Madison. Becky is extremely resourceful. Becky is inscrutable. Now, this quality may not be self-evident to all of you. It's particularly visible when she is communicating in handwriting. In the several years where I've been off in Africa while she's been pursuing her career here, and our communication is by letter, it was a special pleasure to receive each one because I was assured of at least 2 days of enjoyment gradually deciphering. Lastly, sense of direction. Now, her sense of direction is particularly marked in terms of her political direction. In terms of geographic direction, however, as has already been pointed out by Shirley, it is admittedly a different matter. My anecdote of this thought is a trip we were taking to Colorado. We were approaching Des Moines when I was tired of driving, changed drivers, heading west on I-80. And when I woke up a couple of hours later, we were in the outskirts of Kansas City. by being a little bit academic, if I may, referring to Becky in terms of two classic works, one of which is probably unfamiliar to you. It's a book written by my mother, Louise Young, which was a history of the League of Women Voters, entitled In the Public Interest. The argument of the book, essentially, is that the entry of women into formal political participation has added, particularly through organizations in which women participate, such as the League and such as NFLP, a profoundly positive force, because it is a force that is truly dedicated to a public interest. The bylaws of the League set forth two principal purposes: to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government, and to take action on governmental measures and policies in the public interest. Now, both of those bylaw clauses, I think, apply particularly eloquently to Becky's career. She began as a citizen participant in the Dutch Neighborhood Association, in the struggle to prevent the closing of Dutch School, on transportation issues through a long-forgotten organization that she created called the Committee for Balanced Transportation. In her elected roles, the 10 different ones she has successfully electorally competed for, she has consistently served as a defender always of a vision of a public interest. She's never taken PAC money. She's never operated for any interest other than her image of the public. The second source I wish to use to honor Becky, you may have heard of, by the German sociologist Max Weber, a wonderful essay called Politics as a Vocation, which I always assign to my political science 101 courses. Weber argues that democratic politics is possible only if there is a political function that is served not simply by those who are living off politics, but those who are living for politics. He closes his wonderful essay with the following words: that politics is a strong and slow boring of hard boards. It takes both passion and perspective. Certainly all historical experience confirms the truth that humans, excuse me, Max, for degenerating your text, humans would not have attained the possible unless time and again they had reached out for the impossible. Only she has the calling for politics who is sure that she shall not crumble when the world, from her point of view, is too stupid or too base for what she wants to offer. Only she who, in the face of all of this, can say, in spite of all, has the calling for politics. I think Becky supremely has that calling.
You know the old phrase, behind every great man there's a great woman. And look what happens when the opposite is also true. The next person I'd like to introduce for a little bit of fun, it's supposed to be a surprise, but I don't know how much of a surprise it is anymore, Tammy Bolton.
Thank you. Becky, you know that some of your colleagues very much wanted to join you tonight, and due to their legislative obligations were unable to. And so I am here representing them to make a brief presentation. The top 10 reasons why Becky Young has been chosen Feminist of the Year. Because she has traveled more countries than were represented at the Beijing Women's Conference. Number 9, defies the right-wing stereotype of an anti-family values feminist through her outstanding accomplishments as a mother and now a grandmother. Number 8, demonstrates that she does not always have to be in the driver's seat by constantly mooching rides from each and every one of them. Number 7, showed her colleagues exactly who was in charge by terrorizing them with unending Friday afternoon committee hearings when they all wanted to go home. Number 6, votes for gun control and then disguises a concealed weapon claiming it was a cast that she received after breaking her wrist in aerobics class. We knew what that thing was all along. Number 5, she was chosen Feminist of the Year because we could not name her Orator of the Year. Number 4, she embodies feminism through her wardrobe, a wardrobe which declares loudly, I will be judged by my mind, not my fashion sense. Number 3 is actually an exception to the last item. Legislative historical documents exist which suggest that Becky was once seen in the Capitol wearing a skirt. Allegedly to make the Phyllis Schlafly-esque right-to-lifers feel comfortable at her committee's abortion hearing. Number 2, stood up to some mighty powerful women in her book club by declaring, no more books about Eleanor Roosevelt. And number 1, because Becky Young sets the standard in the Wisconsin legislature for advocacy on behalf of women and children. Becky Young is known by all of us as one of the hardest working, most committed, and caring legislators in the state. Wisconsin is lucky to have her. The 76th Assembly District is lucky to have her representing them. And Becky, I speak for all the collaborators on this list in telling you that we feel very honored to have you as our friend and colleague. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Senator Moore. And she was our Feminist of the Year last year, and Becky Young spoke at her dinner. So you can see what the shoe looks like on the other foot.
Well, I can tell you that all of the clever things have been said, and I can tell you that I bring a little bit different perspective than some of the other speakers have brought. I don't know whose idea it was to have the reigning Feminist of the Year come and speak. At somebody else's celebration. You know, it's very hard to give up this title, though.
You break the crown.
I'll tell you that the floral arrangement that I was given last year, 2 weeks ago, my daughter came in and declared that bouquet dead. I told her it was not dead. And she just sort of looked at me, back off, like I'm going to say things to the crazy lady. I was going to bring it to present it to Becky, except I don't want to mess it up. You know, I can tell you that I have observed Becky's manner of dress. And quite recently, and I have chosen to be sort of open-minded about it and decided I'm not going to let it stand between our friendship. Well, quite recently, she and I were at some Republican hearing on W2, and I sort of lost focus of what was happening and sort of lost my ride back to Milwaukee. And Becky said, "Oh, you can spend the night with me." I said, "Oh, Becky, I don't have any clothes." "Oh, that's no problem." Now, I mean, don't I look like a queen? Why do you want to take the crown from me tonight? And have your woman of the year. I mean, we're not asking her to parade around in a bathing suit or an evening gown. You know, but I mean, I couldn't wait to meet her daughters. I told her this. I said, "Becky, did your daughters wear color-coordinated clothing?" I was very shocked to see these 4 young ladies tonight. Then how can this be the product of Becky? Want her to be your queen. Don't be fooled by this gold trim jacket here. The pants and shirt do not match anyway. I spent the night with Becky, and she opened her closet up to me. And I went and I said, "Becky, Becky, where are your clothes, Becky? Becky, where are your skirts? Where are your dresses, Becky? Becky, I know you wear a lot of pants. Where are your pantsuits, Becky?" Well, needless to say, I found a very nice blouse and I wore the very same thing the next day. You know, have you ever seen, you know, when you think of feminist, you think of someone who is gifted intellectually, armed with all kind of information about the history of women and so forth. Becky used to be that way, but about December or so, she started this, you know, "Oh, my grandson is King of Israel," something like that. Oh my God, what happened there? Atrophy, you know, we used to have very substantive discussions about my grandchildren, and suddenly we've been. I don't know. You know, really, Becky has such an impact on people. I mean, you know, ordinarily I would have driven tonight, but I took the Badger bus. And I forgot my overnight case, of course. And probably she has one or another one of these daughters in my bed. I spent the night with Becky once, and it was 50 below wind chill factor. And I said, well, you know, we're at the Capitol. I said, well, Becky, you know, go up and get my things and spend the night with you. Where's your car? "Oh, I don't have a car." I said, "Becky, please. It's 50 below. I mean, this is going too far. What ozone layer are you going to destroy at 50 below zero?" Becky and I compliment each other, I would say. I guess I would have to admit, just insist on having her as your queen. You know, it's not going to look too good having Miss America, or Miss Feminist, whatever you call it, step off of a bus instead of a stretch limo. Okay. Well, you know, I notice everybody sort of follows up with something nice about Becky. Well, Becky. You know, I have a small, slight problem with organization, and sometimes I can't find things. And, you know, my chief of staff, who is very organized, says, "Oh, go and throw that shit away." You know, if you ever meet me again, Becky has everything that's ever been printed. me twice. Becky's my very, very best friend in the legislature, and there are things about her that you may not understand. She's my friend, and she's my confidant, and she is a source of inspiration for me, and she's a person that sort of keeps me grounded. And as a woman of color, I know there are other women of color in the legislature, but Becky is one that gives me the strength to carry on. I feel that the agenda is very, very racist, and it's very painful to me, and it's very personal to me to see the agenda attack women and to attack women of color and to attack people of color. And you know, Becky is always able to strategize with me, at least to help me get through that time. I spend the night with her sometimes just to get away, just to get a good night's sleep, and just to be able to relax and have her wake me up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, she doesn't think so. I remember once, she usually wakes me up, but there was one particular morning, that last budget cycle, when Becky didn't wake me up. You remember that day? You remember when you sneaked off to go and make a deal with the Republicans? Sleeping in the bed, you wanted a particular bill to come up. You remember that time? You remember that, Becky? Well, I did wake up, and I was there, and when the bill came up, I leaped to my feet and objected, and the bill went down. Because she didn't tell me what was going on. She was so busy, you know, wheeling and dealing that she just didn't talk to us about what she was doing. I love Becky. You know, I love her dearly. I told her, Becky, if you leave the legislature, I'm out of here. I don't think I can stand it. And the pressure is on, and Becky is one of the people that gives me strength and courage to keep on. And I love her so much, and I am so very, very pleased to be here tonight to honor and share this moment with her.
Well, what can I say? It's that time of night. Anyone who looks at Becky Young's record will understand why Wisconsin now chose to honor her as Feminist of the Year this year. For her 12 years as a member of the State Assembly, she has worked to improve the lives of girls, women, and children, or women and their children. But you might ask, why this year? Well, you've heard her life story. And as now celebrates its 30th anniversary, it seems fitting that we have someone who has done the women's movement, this wave of the women's movement in her own life. Went to school, started a family, went back to school after a while, and teaching, correct? Something that many women were told, well, in fact, I was told in the 70s when I was going off to college, oh, you want to be in biology? Be a biology teacher so you can have time for your families and children in the summer. And then moved on, found her power at the local level, working around the issues that affected her life and her family, got elected to office, went to law school, and now is in a position of power, helping to change, and we hope to change those in power so it'll be easier to change, helping to change significantly the lives of women and children in the state of Wisconsin. So it's my pleasure to introduce Becky Young.
Israel has to be in his car seat. But I didn't want to really respond to anything anyone else had to say tonight, but I do thank you and appreciate my long-standing friends for all friends and family, for all they have said. But I did want to talk a little bit about language, which I've listened to for the last couple of years. Now it's 1996, which is year 12 after 1984, the 1984 of George Orwell and double speak. And we have Newtish, which is our new language, invented by its speaker, Newton Gingrich, who translates, who is fast overtaking, which is fast overtaking our political rhetoric. Now, Pat Buchanan, who translates his speeches from the German of the 1930s, has called for English only as the official language of government. But I think maybe it's too late, as the English of our forebears, as we once knew and loved political English, is being daily corrupted. Here are some examples. For instance, family. Family has morphed into orphanage. The chosen institution to raise children in the heady new days of the contract on America's welfare reform. And we look at the proclivity of Newtish for non sequiturs. And we look back at November last year when Newt Gingrich addressed the Republican Governors Association, and he cited a newspaper account there of murders in Addison, Illinois, in which a pregnant woman and two of her children were killed, and the baby was removed from her womb. Let's talk about what the welfare state has created. Let's talk about the moral decay of the world the left is defending. He talks about family values in terms of dollars. His earning by learning plan is expanded by Republicans to pay students who graduate early from high school, pay poor teenagers who don't get pregnant, and pay Medicare patients who stay healthy. Family values, or social engineering, conservative style it is. To quote Gingrich on the pay per values plan, I like to pay them a lot because we're trying to teach them that being a pimp or a drug dealer is not the only way to earn money. The delightful follow-up on that is the Utah Republicans who proposed that if an unwed woman between the ages of 18 and 25 agrees to give up her baby for adoption, she'd be eligible for a $3,000 cash assistance grant. The chief sponsor of the proposal says, for 30 years we paid for illegitimacy and non-marriage through welfare. If we're going to turn the country around, we need some bold, new ideas. A brief, rational thought that was. Now, New York City's child welfare system collapsed recently, or actually it's been collapsing for some time, but it was collapsing because of a number of budget cuts from the current mayor, Mayor Giuliani. And you may remember the wonderful written child welfare policy put out by his administration, urging caseworkers to drop 2 cases for every one they opened. 3 days after Christmas, the mayor was asked, what's the priority for next year in your administration? With a straight face, he answered, the priority is children. I wonder what his definition of priority is, or of children. Now, remember Arianna Huffington?
Oh, yeah.
Well, she's a fellow at the Progress and Freedom Foundation, and she chairs the so-called Center for Effective Compassion. They like to define compassion. It comes, of course, from, as Ruth will know, it's from the Latin. Com, which means with, and pati, which means to suffer. So to suffer with is the meaning of compassion. You will recall her husband spent $42 million in his unsuccessful bid to volunteer for the Senate. Well, she has been flailing paid volunteerism in her effort to promote effective compassion. As she says, AmeriCorps cheats people out of the character-building rewards of giving. Maybe I should repeat that in case you missed the meaning. AmeriCorps, that pays people from working families the minimum wage, cheats people out of the character-building rewards of giving. That's presumably the good middle class that would support all these wonderful efforts that need to replace our welfare reform. There's a new environmental language abroad in the land as well. There are a couple of organizations which are worthy of note. One is the Abundant Wildlife Society of North America, which works to convince people that wildlife is already so plentiful, there's no reason not to kill some of it. The Environmental Conservation Organization, set up in Hollow Rock, Tennessee, was set up by land developers to fight environmental rules. The National Wetlands Coalition in Washington, D.C., note inside the Beltline, represents people who want to narrow the government's definition of wetlands so they can build things on them. Environmental doublespeak leads to environmental doublethink. I recently visited Arizona for the birth of my grandson, and at that time, yes, Israel, and I was quite interested at that time, of course, in clean air. And at that time, there was an action alert in Phoenix where the air was so bad that it set off carbon monoxide alarms in homes, which are there to be tripped when your furnace malfunctions. The solution to this problem of the air pollution in the ambient air setting off the carbon monoxide alarms in homes was to design new carbon monoxide detectors so they would go off only if the carbon monoxide levels rose long enough to be life-threatening. So, as usual, that's the way certain political parties deal with environmental problems in this country. I would like to tell one small environmental story that Ruth Loomis, who is always calling these things to my attention, brought this one to my attention the other day. It was a man was on trial for killing an American condor, which is, of course, as you know, an endangered species. The angry judge said, "I'd like to hear your side of the story." The man said, "I was camping with two friends. We got caught in an avalanche. Both my friends died. I was near death myself. I looked up and I saw a shadow above me. I fired my gun. Condor fell at my feet. If I hadn't eaten that condor, sir, I'd have died. The search party found me 2 days later." "I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I had no idea it was a condor." Tears welled up in the judge's eyes, and he said, "The sanctity of human life outweighs the killing an animal on the endangered species list. I'm going to let you go." As the man left the courtroom, he was surrounded by the press who said, "We can't let you go without asking, what does a condor taste like?" Well, he said, sort of a cross between a bald eagle and a peregrine falcon. That story I'm going to say from John Peacock, who was my longtime aide and who was a bird watcher, and who especially loved peregrine falcons. And he's not here tonight, he's in Guatemala, but we're saving the story for him in any case. Perhaps the most outrageous example of this nudist new language is the Contract on America. For example, the Job Creation and Wage Enhancement Act. Every one of their 10 pieces of the contract had these wonderful titles, which were what I would say inscrutable. And this particular one, Job Creation and Wage Enhancement, includes a capital gains tax cut, which will help primarily those with incomes over $200,000 a year. So that's wage enhancement if you earn $200,000 a year or unearn it. And it will cost the Treasury $183 billion in lost revenues between 1995 and 2005. Likewise, this other one, which was I always like to, there's a Common Sense Legal Fund, I think, as well. This is called the Common Sense Legal Reform Act, and that, of course, takes away consumer rights in the court systems. Newt gets into lots of controversies, and the other evening we watched Washington Week in Review, and he hasn't been on. In the news recently because of presidential primaries, and Gloria Borchert, who is from the U.S. News and World Report, noted that his negatives had gone way down during this period of time when he hadn't been heard of. Well, anyway, Newt always jumps in to comment on everything, and if you'll remember, recently there was a Smithsonian exhibit on the dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima, and it generated a lot of controversy. And the decision to drop the bomb was one which the people from some of the military, the veterans groups, objected to the coverage that Truman might have made a mistake in this exhibit. And when the Smithsonian finally canceled the Enola Gay exhibit last year, the House Speaker, who complained that the original plans were a result of, quote, a certain political correctness seeping in and distorting and prejudicing the Smithsonian's exhibits, end quote, he, of course, thought the decision was a great one. He said, political correctness may be okay in some faculty lounges. Take that, Robert. The Smithsonian is a treasure that belongs to the American people, and it should not become the plaything for left-wing ideologies. Well, of course, that particular comment was an odd notion coming from a former history professor, that looking at both sides of President Truman's decision to drop the bomb is evidence of left-wing ideology. I guess perhaps that's how we have come to redefine political truth and life. Another one of Newt's priceless beanbag, politics is beanbag comments was last year, last November, when he accused the president of, quote, absolutely tawdry, end quote, budget politics. And he firmly told the Republican governors then, quote, we will cooperate with the president to reach an agreement, but we will not compromise. I think that's a priceless one. That says it all. In the shoot the messenger category, we have our own pretender to the throne of Louis XIV, and that is, of course, Governor Thomas Thompson. After the Catholic Charities representative testified before the House Ways and Means Committee a week or so ago on welfare reform, the government and society also had responsibilities to help guarantee people suitable employment and adequate welfare benefits when jobs are unavailable. A novel idea in this day and age. The governors took issue, and under questioning by Democrats, especially Pete Stark of California, who was from Wisconsin, and so he knew Wisconsin quite well, he badgered Governor Thompson, and until the governor just said flatly, the Catholic Church is wrong. We should not let him forget that. follows his famous statement of Saskatoon in northern Wisconsin on the stadium issue. This in addition is, of course, the same governor whose Health and Social Services Secretary fired a Learn Fair evaluator from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee when this Learn Fair evaluator didn't come up with the right answer, and he simply called it a liberal boutique, and that was enough. Then he fired him. Of course, and again, this is the same governor who just last week sharply criticized the recent Center on Wisconsin Strategy, COWS, report by the UW-Madison Law, Sociology, and Political Science professor Joel Rogers. That report, if you recall, found that from census data, this is hard and fast census data, that wages have fallen 3 times as fast in Wisconsin as in the national, and as the national rate, and that jobs paying poverty level wages have increased by 40% since 1979 during his watch. While Governor Thompson simply dismissed Professor Rogers as, quote, he's trying to form a new liberal, get that, political party using outdated statistics. Testy. But I have every expectation that we shall go back to basics in our political rhetoric after this coming November. Where welfare reform actually promotes the welfare of children and those most vulnerable in our society. And where political compassion is no longer a dirty word. Finally, in honor of the 30th anniversary of NOW, which has come a long way, I want to suggest that really in politics we have come a long way from the days of William Howard Taft, who in a Saturday Evening Post story of September 11th, 1915 said, on the whole, it's fair to say that the immediate enfranchisement of women will increase the proportion of the hysterical element of the electorate to such a degree that it will be injurious to the public welfare. It will increase the danger of unwise millennial legislation and will promote the influence of, quote, organized emotion in the conduct of our government. I'm not so sure we've come a long way.
Up from under my podium to present to Becky, I was going to say, oh, I feel like Monty Hall, but he is a sexual harasser, so I can't use him as an example. Bob Barker, sorry, Monty, I didn't mean to say that. So I can use Monty Hall. First, I get to present the flowers that I meant to give you at 7 o'clock tonight. But this is so, when we're all milling about after the dinner's over and we're getting our, nightcaps, we'll know which one's Becky Young. Yes, she's a bunch of flower. Well, maybe not. Here's your pen. Here's the flower. And it still looks pretty fresh. Girl Scouts will spoil you if you're a large girl. You get to learn how to dance the guys' stuff and put on the flowers. Because if you're big for your age, you always get to play, quote, the boys' part. Maybe that's what I'm going to say today. Well, first we'll start start with the important stuff. Our official, now, Feminist of the Year mug. There aren't too many of those, and they do keep their feet well, and they will lead you as a marked woman now, wherever you go. Again, a lock DT, 50% poly, 50 cotton. 100% cotton. 100% cotton, natural color, so it hasn't been bleached, environmentally safe. 30th anniversary, Feminist of the Year, Spanglers.
We still have forward Wisconsin.
Yes, all that hard work to keep our statue. And finally, if I can get it out, here we go. Wisconsin now honors Representative Rebecca Young, Feminist of the Year, 1996. Thank you for your commitment to Wisconsin women and children. It's late, we only have 28 more minutes for the bar to stay open, and somebody owes me a drink. But I would love to take the opportunity, take advantage of my position, and make some additional closing remarks. It's really wonderful to be able to take time out, relax, and laugh. It's not been an easy couple of years with the change in our legislature, both at the federal and the state level. Women and children are under attack at the federal and state level like we haven't seen in 10, 15, 20, I could say as 75 years. We haven't seen this type of attack on women and children's rights. Newt and his cronies would be happy to see women and children homeless and starving in order to assure that his fat cat friends making over $2 million a year get a tax break. Here in Wisconsin, we have a governor. This is my turn to really laugh on the governor. We have a governor that proudly proclaims that he has slayed the property tax dragon, the welfare dragon, and the blood-sucking teachers dragon. Whereas what has truly happened, that the number of women and children in poverty has jumped. It's now one of the highest in the nation in Milwaukee County. Infant mortality rates in some of the minority communities in Milwaukee County are the highest in the nation, bar none. The tax burden on individual property owners has dropped, our schools are suffered, and the changes that have taken place in education will assure that any education equity programs currently in place will be decimated if they're not already gone. How many here have read Don Quixote? Don Quixote, the book? Well, I'm going to give sort of a feminist critique of this, okay? It's the Man of La Mancha. It was a musical when I was growing up. I always thought he was a hero, right? Well, what it was is we had somebody who lost it, who saw a dragon at every turn and was out to save the world and was going to slay dragons. He tilted at windmills. How many here know that phrase? Okay. So what we have is a Tom Quixote in Wisconsin. What do windmills do? Well, windmills provide power to maintain communities. Well, the windmill that Governor Tom Quixote thought was a property tax dragon was in reality the windmill that kept the water on the other side of the dike, like they do in Holland. So now, Our lands are flooded and people have lost their homes. The windmill that the governor saw as the welfare dragon was indeed the mill that ground the wheat that made the flour that fed the community. And we have starving children with that throughout the state. And of course, here I'm going to push the analogy a little. The dragon that was the blood-sucking teachers union that we slayed was really the windmill that powered the schools, that educated our children so every child could reach their fullest potential and go to the highest point that they could. So it's time for us to get behind Becky Young and show everyone else who sees Tom Quixote as a hero to join in the chorus to say, no, you have not killed a single dragon, you have not protected a single village, you indeed have left destruction and poverty and pain in your wake. It is time for his vision quest, his mission to be ended. This is the year where we have to stand up and say, stop, this has got to stop, I will make sure it stops. So do the practical stuff. If you didn't vote last year, highly unlikely in this group, vote. Again, starting with our primary process. I actually was born in Cook County, Illinois, so my phrase that I grew up with was vote early, vote often. But the legal way to do that is to register people to vote, carry people to the polls if you have to, and educate them on the issue so that there is not a single man or woman in the state that goes to the polls uninformed. And then we can change this nightmare. Thank you very much for coming. It's been a pleasure. And